Hey there, thank you for stopping by and watching this. I want to talk about what is actually a very hot topic right now, and that is the early termination of pregnancy. Now, this is a big topic because it seems like the left has really taken a hold of the narrative, and the Biden regime, especially, is using this and pushing this hard to win their next election coming up in 2024. Now, what I've seen is what always happens is the left takes a hold of definitions of words, narratives, and they create stories all around it. Stories that are false, narratives that are false, and it really distorts the whole issue and debate. And then the right seems to get caught behind, and they just can't seem to figure out how to argue their way out of it. It's almost like the right has become afraid of this issue and thinks that being pro life now is a losing side. But that's not the case. The case is you just don't know how to argue and you're falling for these fake narratives that the left is putting out. I'm going to tell you that this is not about women's health, this is not about women's rights, and I will prove that to you using their own words and actions. All right, I want to start here at Miss Magazine, and even though this isn't my regular reading, I just want to use it for whatever sake. At least I'm not being biased in this, right? This is not a conservative news source by any means. Here we go. So, this young woman, her name is Amanda Zurawoski, and it says, young woman almost died due to Texas's abortion bans. Now she's battling to save other women. What a hero. Now, let's just get a brief synopsis of her story, and I'll just read the beginning here. Quote, I can't carry a pregnancy again, Amanda Zurawoski said sadly, but matter of factly. The Austin, Texas resident will never be able to carry a pregnancy again because she was refused a necessary abortion in her state after her water broke at 18 weeks, long before her baby would have been viable. And I just want to stop there for a second because there's a little bit of an argument there. The normal amount of weeks for viability is usually considered about 23 weeks. So this would have been just before that, but it's not unheard of for babies to survive at 18 weeks. And even recently, we had a baby in Ohio that survived at 16 weeks. But I digress. Tragically, the delay in receiving what used to be normal healthcare allowed a massive bacterial infection to develop and turn into life-threatening sepsis, which ravaged her body and reproductive organs. But that's what life is like now in the post-Roe world for pregnant women who run into serious pregnancy complications in Texas and 13 other Republican-led states. These states have all banned abortions with virtually no exceptions unless the mother is on the verge of death. She's got to be just 2 heartbeats away. Zurawoski can thank Texas 3 draconian abortion bans for her own brush with death and a future in which she can never risk pregnancy again. Zurawoski's baby girl still had a heartbeat after her mom-to-be's amniotic sac ruptured prematurely at 18 weeks, a condition called EPROM, premature rupture of the membranes. So her doctor was not legally able to give her an abortion in Texas and was forced to send her home to wait. This sentence right here is a lie. And let's figure out why I say that. Well, we're going to go over here to the actual law. And this is the health code that has to, and this is the Texas code concerning abortions. And we have to start out with the definition of abortion because what's happening is the left seems to want to stretch the definition of abortion. I'm going to show you a few examples here in a second, but let's just read their definition of abortion because it's very important that we all go off the same definition of words if we want to be talking about the same subject. 1. Abortion means the act of using or prescribing an instrument, a drug, a medicine, or any other substance, device, or means with the intent to cause the death of an unborn child of a woman known to be pregnant. The term does not include birth control devices or oral contraceptives. An act is not an abortion if the act is done with the intent to A. Save the life or preserve the health of an unborn child. B. Remove a dead, unborn child whose death was caused by spontaneous abortion, which means a miscarriage. Or C. Remove an ectopic pregnancy. And here's why I just want to point these out specifically. Because here's what the left has to say about it. I'm going to bring up a few tweets here and you can read them. And this is what they are telling you. This is the emergency that they're spreading. This is the fear that they're spreading, and that, oh, now we're not going to be able to get life-saving procedures done because it's against the law. In Mrs. Zorowaski's case, her 18-week baby did have a heartbeat. So maybe that's where the confusion came in, but there's no doubt that once the amniotic sac ruptured, the baby and the mother's health are both now in jeopardy. Now let's look at the exceptions that are explicitly stated here in the law, and we're going to read it right here. Exceptions: A, the prohibitions and requirements under sections 171.043 through .045b do not apply to an abortion performed if there exists a condition that, in the physician's reasonable medical judgment, so complicates the medical condition of the woman that, to avert the woman's death or a serious risk of substantial and irreversible physical impairment of a major bodily function, like being able to give birth, other than a physiological condition, it necessitates as applicable: 1. The immediate abortion of her pregnancy without the delay necessary to determine the probable post-fertilization age of the unborn child. 2. The abortion of her pregnancy even though the post-fertilization age of the unborn child is 20 or more weeks, or the use of a method of abortion other than a method described by section 171.045b. B. A physician may not take an action authorized under subsection A if the risk of death or a substantial and irreversible physical impairment of a major bodily function arises from a claim or diagnosis that the woman will engage in conduct that may result in her death or in substantial and irreversible physical impairment of a major bodily function. Now, essentially what that means is if a woman comes and says, look, if you don't give me this abortion, I'm going to go out there with a coat hanger and do it myself, that's not an excuse for you to do it for her. And then finally, C, the prohibitions and requirements under sections 171.043 through 171.045b do not apply to an abortion performed on an unborn child who has a severe fetal abnormality. I think I got that right. Abnormality. Now, I'm not a doctor or a lawyer, but I would say it's pretty easy to say that the doctors had a duty to actually perform that surgery on her and not send her home. They knew very well they were in the limitations of the law, and they had every right under the law to do that. And so something is not right. Something is not adding up in the story. Either the doctors need to be held accountable and the hospital needs to be held accountable, or they need to all just admit that they were lying. And that's the thing, is this lawsuit isn't about the abortion ban in general. It's about clarifying the language. Was the language unclear to you? It was pretty clear to me that she was in a situation where she would have been legally okay to get an abortion. So it's really not about women's health and women's rights. And I'm going to show you a clip from Biden less than 20 years ago on what he had to say about abortion, and just take his attitude here and compare it to what it seems to be now, and see if that seems to be the same general consensus among the left.
Not view abortion as a choice and a right. I think it's always a tragedy, and I think that it should be rare and safe. And I think we should be focusing on how to limit the number of abortions, and they ought to be able to have a common ground and consensus as to do that. I think the vast majority of the American people think that can be done. But unfortunately, we're put in a position to either eliminate abortions under all circumstances or it's quote abortion on demand. The fact of the matter is, I've never known of a woman having an abortion and say, by the way, I feel like having an abortion. It's always a tragic decision made, always a difficult decision.
And of course, the other thing that the left always wants to bring up is rape and incest. They always want to use that as a fear tactic, saying that they're going to force these women who get raped and then are impregnated, they're going to force them to give birth. But really, the percentage of abortions that make up rape and incest are less than 1%. It's like 0.03%. It's such a small number of abortions that if we made exceptions for that, and I would be willing to make exceptions for that. And look, I said this before, and there was an actual example I found of this, so check it out.
This is an illuminating hearing, Mr. Chairman. The Republicans' own witness, the witness they called, is candidly and openly calling for a nationwide ban on all abortions with no exceptions for rape or incest. And if I've got that wrong, I would invite Ms. Foster to correct me. Do I have it wrong, yes or no?
If we added rape and incest exceptions, would you vote for it?
Okay, I reclaim my time.
So I hope you got something out of this, and I hope you see that the left has really taken a hold of this narrative, and they're basing everything they say on lies. This isn't about women's health. This isn't about women's rights. We in this country have a right to life, liberty, and happiness. And if that's the case, then being born is a right. Being born is an individual human right, not a woman's right to have a life free of children, which, let's be honest, that's what this really is about. Please share this with your friends and family, get the word out, spread the word, and let's try to take the narrative back from these people, because that's all they do is lie. Until next time, peace be with you.